Welcome to Learn English with Tech Leads with your hosts, Marcus and Sarah. Deconstructing world-class software architecture and engineering culture so you can master professional tech English. Let's dive in.
So, imagine you are managing an engineering team and you are looking at your team's code base. You suddenly realize a developer just broke a major technical rule.
Oof, yeah. That is never a good moment.
No, it is not. Tensions are running very high. You need to fix this situation right now. But there is a catch. You have to have this difficult conversation in a second language.
Wow, yes.
For you, listening right now as a Spanish-speaking engineering leader, this is a highly stressful moment. Navigating a difficult conversation is like debugging legacy code, meaning you have to carefully find the root cause of the problem without breaking the whole system.
That is exactly right. It is a very specific type of pressure. You have to manage the technical problem on your screen. You have to manage the complex human emotions in the room. And, you have to do it all while translating nuanced thoughts into professional English.
It is a heavy load.
It really is a heavy load to carry for any leader.
Definitely. So our mission today in this deep dive is to help you master this exact situation. We are going to break down a highly effective 4-step framework for having difficult conversations in English.
And we are using real software engineering scenarios to do it.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
We will use real scenarios from our sources to show you how this works. The ultimate goal here is to move your one-on-one conversations away from stressful arguments.
Yeah.
And we want to move them toward real, lasting engineering solutions.
I love that. And we want to make sure this material is as clear and actionable as possible.
Definitely.
So we are going to speak a bit slower today. We will use shorter sentences. We will leave room to breathe.
Yes, that is a great point.
If you are working on your professional English, this deliberate pace will give you the time you need. Time to process the vocabulary and time to understand the management concepts we're exploring.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Before we can learn the 4-step framework, we first need to understand the default mistakes.
Right. We have to know what not to do.
Exactly. We have to examine why these difficult conversations usually fail in the first place. Looking at the analysis in our deep dive today, there is a massive trap that engineering managers fall into.
Oh, yeah. A huge trap.
They walk into the conversation with an unspoken premise. And that premise is simple. I am right and you are wrong.
Yes. That is the single most common error, and it destroys trust immediately.
How so?
Well, when you start with the mindset of, I am right, you are wrong, you turn a management meeting into a trial. Think about a courtroom.
Right.
In a trial, the teammate feels like they have already been declared guilty by the judge. So what is the psychological reaction?
They defend themselves.
Exactly. The teammate spends all of their mental energy defending themselves. They do not explain what actually happened. They just build a wall to protect their job.
That makes total sense.
The conversation stops being a helpful exploration. It instantly becomes a fight.
And the second mistake is closely connected to that courtroom mindset. The manager assumes the intent behind the developer's action.
Yes. They invent a story.
Right. For example, a rule is broken, and the manager thinks to themselves, this developer just does not care about code quality.
Yep.
The manager then treats that made-up story as a confirmed fact, instead of treating it as an assumption.
Right. And before we go deeper into why that is dangerous, let's pause here.
Good idea.
Let's make sure we are all on the same page with the jargon. Our sources highlight a scenario where a developer is bypassing code review and merging to main.
Yes, those are critical terms.
Let's unpack those terms really quickly for our listeners who might use different vocabulary.
Absolutely. So bypassing code review simply means skipping the peer check process.
Right.
You are avoiding the required step where another developer looks at your work to catch errors.
Okay.
And merging to main means you are adding your new code directly to the primary branch of the code base.
The most important branch.
Exactly. That main branch is the final product. So doing this without a review is a massive risk. It can bring down the whole application.
It really can.
But hold on. I need to push back here for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's look at the reality of that exact scenario. What if the manager actually is objectively right? I mean, merging to main without a review is a broken rule. The rule is written down in the company handbook. It is an undeniable fact.
True.
Why can't we just look at the developer, point to the rule, and say, you are wrong?
That is a completely natural reaction. I mean, your instinct as a manager is to protect the code.
Right, that is your job.
But here is the problem with that approach. Even if the rule is clearly broken, stating the words, "you are wrong," forces the developer into a defensive posture.
Because it feels like an attack.
Exactly. It triggers a fight or flight response. When human beings feel attacked, their brains literally stop listening to reason.
Wow, okay.
The goal of the conversation as a manager is to explore the underlying cause of the failure. Your goal is not to deliver a verdict like a judge.
I see.
If you say, "you are wrong," the door closes. You learn absolutely nothing about why the system failed.
Okay, I see your point. So the psychological reaction to "you are wrong" is a literal wall going up.
Yep.
By playing the judge, you actually blind yourself to the root cause of the bug. If they are busy defending themselves, they won't tell you that, say, a project manager was screaming at them to work faster.
Exactly. You miss the context entirely. You might punish the developer, but the actual problem, the screaming project manager, remains hidden.
That makes sense.
This is why making accusations is a failure of leadership.
That brings up a massive challenge, though.
What is that?
Well, if we know that making accusations creates defensiveness, how should a manager actually open the conversation?
Right.
You still have to address the broken rule. You cannot just ignore it. This brings us to the first two steps of the framework. Step 1 is about perception.
Right. Step 1 is share your perception, not the absolute truth. You need to clearly name what you see.
Okay.
You present it as your read on the situation. It is not a final verdict. You are simply sharing your view of the events, acknowledging that your view might be incomplete.
The materials we are reviewing provide a fantastic contrast to show how this sounds in English.
Yes, let's hear it.
A harmful phrase would be, "You clearly do not care about our engineering process."
Right. That is a direct attack. It assumes intent.
Exactly. But a highly effective phrase is, "Here's how I'm reading this."
Let's focus on that specific phrase for a moment. Let's explicitly pause here.
Okay.
Here's how I'm reading this. That is a very common idiom in American business English.
Yes, it really is. In this context, reading does not mean reading a book or an article.
Yeah.
It means, "This is my understanding of the situation," or "This is how I interpret the facts in front of me." Starting with perception is like reading a raw server log, meaning you are just stating the exact facts you see without judging why the error happened.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You are literally just looking at the logs together.
Yeah.
So you sit down and say, "Here's how I'm reading this. I see there were 3 merges to main without a peer review this month."
Just the facts.
Right. Notice how entirely different that feels from an accusation. It leaves room for context the manager might not have. It is a neutral observation. It is not an insult to their character.
Okay, so you have laid out the raw logs. You have shared your perception.
Yep.
But the server log does not tell you why the system crashed. If we just stop at perception, we are still guessing about the cause.
That is true.
So, how do we uncover the root cause without sounding like an interrogator? That transition leads us to step 2, intent.
Step 2 is where the exploration truly begins. You must explicitly ask about their intent instead of assuming it.
Yeah.
The other person's intent is completely invisible to you. You cannot see inside their head.
Right, you only see the result.
Exactly. You can only see the behavior, which is the code being merged. You do not see the pressure, the confusion, or the reason behind the action.
So instead of accusing them, you ask. The material suggests asking, what was going through your mind when you decided to skip the review?
That's a wonderfully powerful question to use. What was going through your mind?
It is very open.
Yes. It shows genuine curiosity. And if you ask it sincerely, their intent will often surprise you completely.
Right. Because as a manager, you might assume they were just being lazy. But when you ask about their intent, you find out there was a hidden variable.
Always a hidden variable.
Like maybe there was a secret deadline given to them by the sales team that nobody else knew about.
Yes, that happens a lot.
Or maybe they were genuinely confused about which specific types of code changes require a formal review. Or maybe they just made a terrible decision because they were tired. But you have to ask the open question to find out.
If we zoom out and connect this to the bigger picture of team dynamics, steps 1 and 2 stop the argument before it even begins.
Yeah.
You state the neutral facts, you ask for their personal perspective, you have not called them a bad developer or a rule breaker.
No accusations.
Exactly. You are simply sitting on the same side of the table, exploring a workflow problem together.
Let's move forward. You have shared your perception.
Yeah.
You have asked about their intent. You now understand why they did what they did. But you still have a problem. You still have to correct the bad behavior so it does not happen again.
Yes, that is the job of a manager.
How do you correct them without making them feel entirely blamed? This brings us to step 3 and step 4 of the framework. Step 3 is called contribution.
And step 3 is arguably the most fascinating and the most difficult part of this entire framework.
Oh, definitely.
Step 3 requires you to name your own contribution to the problem before you discuss theirs. You have to look in the mirror and name your own part in the failure.
I am going to be honest, that is incredibly hard for a lot of leaders to do.
It is.
The manager's ego is usually screaming, I am the boss, I didn't break the rule, they did, why should I apologize?
It is deeply uncomfortable for the ego, but it is absolutely necessary for the health of the team.
Okay.
The reality of complex software engineering is that almost no tense situation is the responsibility of just one single person. The system usually plays a part. Naming your part first completely shifts the tone of the conversation. It changes from a downward accusation into a joint, equal analysis.
The sources show us 2 different ways a manager might handle this. The traditional harmful way is to say, you should have known better.
Ouch. Yeah.
That places 100% of the blame on the developer. But the framework suggests saying, I think part of this is on me too.
Before we go deeper into how powerful that phrase is, let's pause to clarify a couple of technical terms from the examples we were reviewing.
Oh, good call.
The scenarios mention handling hotfixes and doing an async review. Let's make sure those are clear for our B1 and B2 learners.
Absolutely. So a hotfix is a fast, critical repair to live code.
Very fast.
It happens when something is broken in the production environment, like the checkout page of an app crashing, and it needs to be fixed immediately.
Right.
And an async review refers to a code check done independently. Async means asynchronous.
Yes.
It is done without needing a live scheduled meeting. You just leave written comments on the code when you have the time.
Thank you. So keeping those terms in mind, let's look at how step 3 works.
Okay.
A manager using the framework might say, I think part of this is on me. I never made it explicit to the team that urgent hotfixes still need a quick async review before merging.
Wow.
Do you see what happens in the room when the manager says that? The manager voluntarily takes some responsibility for the confusion.
It is a brilliant psychological move. I want to explicitly highlight this actionable takeaway for you, the listener.
It is so important.
Think about the power dynamics here. Naming your own contribution first completely neutralizes the teammate's ability to attack you.
Yes, it takes away their weapon.
It stops them from crossing their arms and saying, well, your documentation is terrible, so you are not perfect either.
Exactly.
They cannot use that defense against you because you just admitted it yourself. You disarm their primary defense mechanism before they can even deploy it.
Exactly. You drain all the hostility out of the room, and that calm environment leads directly to step 4, the plan.
Right, the final step.
Because you are no longer fighting about the past, you can close the conversation with a joint plan for the future. You do not close with a punishing verdict.
You ask a forward-looking question like, what would make this not happen again?
Yes.
You are focused entirely on tomorrow, not yesterday.
This is exactly why the sequence of these 4 steps matters so much. You cannot skip around.
Perception, intent, contribution, plan.
Exactly. Each step disarms a specific emotional defense. Naming your perception stops them from arguing, that is not what happened.
Right?
Asking about their intent stops them from claiming, you don't understand my situation. And naming your contribution stops them from blaming you.
It creates a perfectly safe pathway to a solution. So, what does this all look like in practice?
Let's look at some examples.
Let's apply this exact 4-step script to some real-world engineering management scenarios. We can see how the vocabulary and the psychological framework operate together in the wild.
Let's look at the first scenario detailed in our deep dive. We have the teammate we mentioned earlier who repeatedly merged code without getting a review.
Okay, the rule breaker.
The manager sits down and uses the framework. The manager states their perception calmly. The manager asks about the developer's intent. And then the manager shares their own contribution to the problem.
And because the manager created a safe space, the teammate responds with something entirely unexpected.
Right.
The teammate says, honestly, I thought hot fixes were exempt from reviews. That is what the last team I worked on did, so I assumed it was the same here.
This revelation changes everything about the management approach.
It really does.
The manager originally thought the developer was lazy, arrogant, or lacked discipline, but the truth was completely different. The problem was not a lack of personal discipline.
Wow.
It was a lack of clear documentation.
So responding to this new information, the manager says, that makes perfect sense. It is on me for not clarifying that rule when you joined. Let's write it down formally in the repository read.me file today.
Let's highlight a crucial concept here. Let's take another pause.
Good idea.
The manager mentions writing the rule down so it is no longer just tribal knowledge. We really should define that concept for our listeners because it is a massive source of friction in tech companies.
Yes, tribal knowledge is a very common and very dangerous phenomenon in software teams.
Very dangerous.
It means vital operational information that is only known by a few veteran people. It lives entirely in their heads.
Right.
It is not written down anywhere in the official documentation. So imagine a new developer joins the team. They read the guides, they follow the written rules, but they still fail because there was a secret unwritten rule that the tribe just naturally knew.
It is incredibly frustrating for a new hire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We also need to define PRs and ticket descriptions before we hit the next scenario.
Certainly. PR stands for pull request. That is the formal system request to merge your new code into the main code base so others can review it. And ticket descriptions are the written instructions for a specific task, usually found in a tracking system like Jira or Linear.
Okay, keeping those definitions of tribal knowledge and pull requests in mind, I want to push back on this first scenario again.
Okay, I am ready.
I am putting myself in the shoes of a frustrated manager. Is it really the manager's fault if the developer did not ask about the hotfix rule?
Well,
I mean, why does the manager have to take the blame here? The developer is a senior engineer. They should have asked before assuming.
I hear that frustration a lot from leaders, but this raises a fundamental question about what it means to lead a team.
Okay.
This framework is not about a courtroom. It is not about assigning perfectly equal blame. It is about shifting the conversation away from blame entirely and moving it toward a permanent joint solution.
But isn't letting them off the hook dangerous? It feels like we are rewarding bad assumptions.
Look at the long-term impact. If you just scold and punish the developer, you might fix that one person's behavior for one day. But the unwritten rule is still unwritten. The system is still broken. By taking ownership and saying, let's write this rule in the README, you solve the system.
I see.
You prevent the next new developer who joins tomorrow from making the exact same mistake. You are essentially putting out fires, meaning you are constantly reacting to emergencies instead of preventing them unless you fix the documentation.
Right.
You are building a stronger, more resilient engineering culture rather than just policing individuals.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. You solve the system rather than punishing the individual. It scales much better.
Exactly.
Let's look at the second scenario. This one is not about breaking a process rule. It is about actual code quality, which can be even more sensitive to talk about.
Yes, code quality is tough. In this scenario, 2 PRs, 2 pull requests submitted by a developer needed significant rework.
Right.
The code architecture was just not good enough, and it took days of going back and forth to fix it.
The manager uses the exact same 4 steps. Step 1, perception. Here's how I'm reading the last 2 PRs. Both needed significant rework and multiple revision cycles.
A simple statement of facts.
Yes. Step 2, intent. What is your read on what is making these features harder to get right the first time?
Notice the careful language there. It is a very open, non-threatening question.
It really is.
It invites the developer to share their technical struggles without feeling incompetent.
Then, step 3, contribution. On my end, I think the ticket descriptions I wrote for these tasks have been thinner than usual lately.
So good.
The manager openly admits that the written instructions they provided were vague. Finally, step 4, the plan. Let's figure out together what technical details are missing on each side before you start coding the next ticket.
It is the exact same framework applied to a completely different technical problem.
Yep.
You offer a specific perception, you ask an open question to uncover intent, you volunteer your own contribution to the failure, and you offer an invitation to solve the workflow together.
It is so smooth.
It entirely avoids a one-sided, demoralizing lecture.
It is amazing how much personal stress this removes from the manager's shoulders.
Absolutely.
You do not have to walk into the meeting room feeling anxious, ready to fight a battle in a second language. You just trust the framework.
Yeah.
You followed the 4 steps.
Let's do a quick final recap of those 4 steps for our listeners to take away.
Perfect.
Step 1, perception. Share what you see in the logs, not absolute truth. Step 2, intent. Ask why they did it. Do not invent a story.
Right.
Step 3, contribution. Name your own systemic mistake first to disarm them. Step 4, plan. Create a forward-looking joint solution.
Approaching your English one-on-one conversations this way removes the massive anxiety of an interpersonal argument.
It really does.
It focuses the energy entirely on engineering solutions. So next time you are facing a difficult conversation with a direct report, don't jump the gun, meaning do not act too quickly before you have asked about their intent. Let the framework do the heavy lifting for you.
When you adopt this, it completely changes the dynamic of your engineering team.
Yeah.
You move from being a strict judge enforcing rules to being a true technical leader building a better system.
We want to leave you with one final reflection based on the insights from today's deep dive.
Yes.
The next time a teammate breaks a critical process, pause before you let the anger take over. Take a breath and ask yourself, is this a true failure of personal discipline, or is it just a failure of team documentation that you haven't discovered yet?
A great question to ask.
Think about that as you lead and build with your teams this week.
That's a wrap. If this breakdown helped, hit subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss a lesson. Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.